You are listening to the Manument Podcast. My name is Casey, and I'm here with my buddy Glenn Johnson, investment advisor and founder of Jabez Financial right here in the Uncasville area.
All right, well, today our guest is Brad Jenkins, the Chief Investment Officer of MarketGuard. At Jabez Financial, we've also teamed up with MarketGuard to help our clients customize an investment approach designed to help them think a little differently about risk and long-term growth, and even tax efficiency. And Brad's here to help us break it down. So Brad, for hearing about MarketGuard for the first time, what is it designed to help investors do?
Yeah, Glenn, that's a great question. And one of the things, because we get that a lot, right? And people say, so what's MarketGuard all about? What's it designed to do? And really the essence and the core of MarketGuard, if we boil it down, would be we want to help investors perform at or better than the market, but to do it with less volatility. And the reason we think that's important is because a lot of times we see investors that they build their portfolios, they're working with somebody, and it has all this unnecessary risk and volatility that's inside of there. So in the up markets, they're getting the upside they're looking for, they're getting the returns that they're looking for. But when those down moments happen, right, whether it lasts for weeks, months, or sometimes years, that damage to the portfolio can be so significant that what they didn't realize at the time of how much risk they were assuming is now they're losing more than they feel comfortable with. And so what we wanted to do was to find the balance to say, we believe that it's inside there, that an investor can have those returns they're seeking, but to also have that downside control that they're seeking as well, and to marry those two pieces together. So that's really the essence. If you had to kind of say in a simplest term, no matter what MarketGuard portfolio they're using, whether it's the most conservative, the most aggressive, or anywhere in between, is let's go get the best possible return. We want to be at or better than what the markets are doing, the benchmark, but to do it with less volatility.
And so when the market is holding up pretty well, a lot of people may be thinking, well, why make any changes now? So if account balances are up, why is this a good time for someone to review their strategy and decide if MarketGuard is a good fit?
Not only is it, I would say, a good time, it's the best time, right? When There's no storm out there yet, we're not trying to run for shelter. It reminds me of a quote from Warren Buffett, and we use this all the time at MarketGuard, and it says, Noah built the ark before it started raining. Because if he had waited until the rain was coming down, the floodwaters are starting to rise, and then he said, let's go get a hammer, some wood, some nails, I got to start building a boat. Well, it's too late at that point. So the idea also, at MarketGuard, the philosophy that we bring to mind, especially when thinking of that quote, is we want to have that boat built. We want to be ready for it. So when times are, the sun is shining, the weather is beautiful, we've constructed this thing. So when that flood comes, not if, right? But when those floodwaters start to rise, we're just getting inside the boat and closing the door. So to expound on that a little bit further, let's now make it a little more practical of what we see in today's markets. If you go back 15, 20, 30 years ago, and let's just use the S&P 500 as an example, it could give you a pretty good sense of the breadth of the overall market, right? It's giving you the top 500 large cap companies, gives people a pretty good sense of here's how the market's doing. Well, here's what's really changed in kind of this post-COVID era most predominantly, but a little bit before this, is you get these things, and I'm sure that your listeners have heard of this, the Mag 7, right? The Magnificent Seven, those big 7 companies that are pushing the markets, or those top 10 companies. Well, what's happened is it's created this top-heavy, almost distorted version now when we look at the S&P 500 of what the markets are really doing. And we've seen multiple years where those companies are doing well, and the majority of the market, the S&P 500 is doing poorly, but the market appears to still be moving forward. So what do people think? They don't see the storm. They're looking the wrong direction, right? And then it's easy to get lulled into, hey, I should be owning those companies. I need to have that as well. When again, the first conversation we just had, the first question, the return's not matching their risk. So all of a sudden, when that storm comes and it happens quick, they haven't built that boat yet. They're not built inside of a portfolio or strategy that's going to handle that. So what we would say is every single person listening to your show right now, Whether they love their portfolio, whether they hate their portfolio, they're somewhere neutral in the middle saying, I'm not quite sure what I have, absolutely positively should pick up the phone, give you a call and say, just take a look at it for me. Let me know, is my boat built? Is it ready to go? Can I get in and close the door? Or do we have some construction that still needs to happen? And that's where you specialize with what you do with your clients at Jabez Financial.
That's right. And Brad, a lot of our clients and listeners right now have done a really great job saving. And so now taxes actually has become just as much of an important issue as returns. So how does MarketGuard address tax efficiency and help people keep more of what they've earned?
Not that I want to keep sticking with this boat thing, but here's what it just made me think of when you asked that question. It's one thing to have the boat built and we can close the door, but if we have a bunch of holes in the boat, we're taking on water.
Yeah.
Now, we can try to plug them up the best we can and shove something in there, but the reality is we're taking on unnecessary weight, right? The boat might not sink, but now we've got a lot of water inside and we're not as efficient. So when it comes to portfolios, this is a very big piece of what MarketGuard looks at as well, is it's not just about what we're purchasing. It's not just about how much. It comes down to now the methodologies of each one of these strategies and also to be as tax efficient as possible. So one of the main ways that we can solve this is virtually every single one of our MarketGuard portfolios has this tax loss harvesting strategy, if you will, this direct indexing approach that allows us to be incredibly efficient inside of the portfolios when it comes to taxes. So it's very sensitive. And when we do that, it's unique and customized to the individual client. So that's another thing that's unbelievably powerful because every single client, if you think about it, they're as unique as their fingerprint. Every person has their own fingerprint. Every snowflake is its own design. Every investor has their own approach of what's best for them. We don't want them to try to be shoved into this box or this cookie cutter that everybody's got to look and feel the same, because the problem is this: they're not all the same. Investors aren't all the same. So in the industry and the side that I'm on, we saw that as a major challenge, that the portfolios that were being constructed for clients were built in a way that, yeah, this is good and everybody just needs to fit inside that boat, when the reality is that's not the one they should be in. So we've been able to create those tax loss harvesting, direct indexing strategies for virtually every single one of our portfolios. So that allows you, when you sit down with them, to say, here's what we want to own and here's how we want to own it. Here's how to get the most out of every dollar that you're utilizing inside your investment approach.
That's really fantastic, Brad. And I'll tell you, I really enjoy seeing how all of this actually pans out. It's not just a matter of being excited about an opportunity, but the way it's described and the way it actually pans out in reality are congruent. I also wanted to ask you, Brad, could you give our listeners some insights into how we decide which MarketGuard strategy or portfolio might be the right fit for a particular person?
Yeah, so one of the other advantages that we have at MarketGuard, again, because we've built a portfolio for every single scenario, and it's usually not pick one, right? It's a combination of two or three or four or five. So we have the tools that are also developed that as you sit down and you're talking to the clients from the financial planning aspect, which is so unbelievably important. It starts and ends with the financial planning side, right?
Yes.
And in the middle is that, okay, where are we putting the funds? But I always like to share with people, it's when you think of financial planning, it's not a photograph, it's a movie, because life changes every single day. The markets are changing, their personal lives are changing. And that's another thing we wanted to do at MarketGuard, was to build solutions that understood that and can adapt to that. And so what we also created were these tools that you have access to, these proprietary tools that allow you, when you sit down and you're having that family one-on-one conversation that's involving the financial planning side, to say, this is what those individuals need. Then you have the tools that help them select exactly the solutions that they're looking for. And then you come back and you bookend it with that financial planning piece, which is that ongoing conversation. When life changes, we go back to the drawing board. We just make those fine-tune adjustments, and they just continue to flow, hopefully in the best possible scenario, regardless of what life throws at them.
That's right. And that's why having such a good relationship with my clients makes such a difference because we're experiencing that movie together. Now, how does MarketGuard help investors stay disciplined in such a fast-moving market?
Yeah, that's a great question as well, because like you mentioned, the markets are quick. They're quick to react. It feels like every year they keep getting a little bit faster, a little bit more, where you have to be so responsive. And when we think about that, I think it really gets back to the original essence of the whole concept when we think about building portfolios. And believe it or not, it's as simple as a chocolate chip cookie analogy. So follow me on this one. I have two daughters, and I remember actually I was sitting there and I was making cookies with them one day. And that's what made me think of this analogy is I was like, this is similar to what I do for work, right? So I'm sitting there making cookies with them, and they say, all right, Dad, let's make Grandma's famous chocolate chip cookies. She used to have this amazing little delicatessen in Pacific Beach in San Diego, and she had the most delicious cookies. And so we said, okay, let's make these. Now, imagine as I'm going to get all of these ingredients, I come back with a bottle of vinegar instead of vanilla. They're going to say, well, hold on a second, Dad, we can't use that. And if I say, well, why? They're going to go, well, because it's going to ruin the entire batch of cookies. And I said, but, they both start with the letter V, and you use vinegar in other recipes, so why can't we use it in these cookies? They're going to say, Dad, even though all the other ingredients are right, that one wrong ingredient will mess up and sour the entire batch. So you go, okay, well, how does that relate to building portfolios? We have to start with the right ingredients. We have to start with the right security selection. Now, oftentimes what we see is that's where people think the journey ends, right? We were talking earlier about the Mag 7. Oh, as long as I pick those 7 companies, I'm going to be okay. Not necessarily. Because the second piece is this. Let's go to the analogy. If I use 12 eggs, 6 bags of sugar, 4 bottles of vanilla, and a pinch of flour, I've got soup. I don't have anything that's going to bake into a cookie. So it's not just what we're buying inside the portfolios, it's how much you're buying of it. And that, believe it or not, is a huge component to portfolio success. Now, one of the things that I've seen in our industry is that's where a lot of times they draw the line. Because if you look at it statistically, over 96% of portfolio success can come from security selection and asset allocation. So it's easy for investors and for money managers like myself to think, oh, that must be all we have to do, and we built a great portfolio. But therein lies the challenge. And this is getting back to how do we help people stay disciplined? Because those beautiful lines that they see on the chart, on that graph that they go, oh, that's going to be me. It will never be them unless they can get this third component, unless they can figure out how to handle the volatility of the markets and the speed of the markets. And this is the third component of the analogy. My daughters could come to me and they could say, all right, Dad, we got all the ingredients right. We got rid of your crazy vinegar idea. Everything's perfect. All the balance of how much we're using is absolutely perfect. The cookies are balled up on this sheet. They could hand that to me and say, Dad, you have one job. All you have to do is bake the cookies. You can't mess that up, right? I go, well, no, I can totally mess that up because there's 2 things I have to know. The time and the temperature that those cookies need to be baked at. Without that critical piece of information, we risk burning the cookies. Without that critical understanding, we believe that an investor risks burning their life savings because we've got to get that, and it's unique to each individual. So how do you handle the speed of the markets? How do you handle the volatility of the markets? How do you go back to what we talked about of building that boat and closing the door and understanding how to customize and all of that can be boiled down to you have to know your time and temperature. And that is the component that we see that MarketGuard has the ability to help investors succeed with. To understand, we know what we need to purchase. We know how much we need to buy of it. But we have to be able to uniquely set their individual time and temperature. And that's where our partnership comes together with you at Jabez Financial to say, from the financial planning side what they need. We work together to say, here's that customized portfolio solution for them. And you go back to understanding that financial planning piece. So that movie we've talked about, that synergy that continues to flow, just creates that perfect balance.
Boy, that's just such a great analogy with the ingredients, the timing, the temperature, and constructing a financial plan using these types of financial tools like MarketGuard. Boy, I'll tell you, it makes such a difference. Now, like any good golfer, for example, they'll check the wind before taking a shot. And if it's at their back, great, it's going to help. Or if it's in their face, well, that may be causing some problems. But a retirement plan feels a lot like that. With the market, taxes, fees, inflation, and health acting as wind in our faces, can MarketGuard be enough wind at our back to help us make up the difference?
Yeah, what I love here is I love the golf analogy, especially because I'm not a great golfer. People love to ask, what's your handicap? I say it's my game. It's the whole thing. But there's so many components to it. I think one of the reasons I love the game is because each shot is different, and you've got all these challenges and wind, and there's water, there's sand, you're on an uneven lie. For those golfers that are listening out there today, they know exactly what we're talking about. It also makes me think, as we kind of talked about the boat analogies, and this also applies to the golfing, is, we can't control the wind, but we can adjust our sails, right? We can't control the wind, but we can adjust what club we're going to use and how we're going to hit that shot. And that also gets back to the very essence of MarketGuard, how we've talked about this customization. And the key component as well of using this non-emotional, methodical, mathematical approach of MarketGuard to say we have to factor in the component of what's happening with their tax situation, what's happening with market volatility, what's going on with the individual with their healthcare costs. So when we can partner together, and as you're working with these individuals with their life savings, and we at MarketGuard can help provide the solutions for them to say, Glenn, this is what we've got to solve. This is what we need to try to work towards. We believe that MarketGuard can help take those components, put them all together, and to provide those solutions for your clients as you help them navigate those challenges throughout life.
So Jabez Financial is the premier financial planning firm where you can find MarketGuard in southeastern Connecticut. Just look for the MarketGuard Shield, and I'll tell you, we are proud and humbled to partner with MarketGuard to offer this to our clients. And we'd love to continue the conversation with you, which is why we invite you to come in for a conversation and find out how this can work for you. We can walk through a side-by-side MarketGuard comparison and show how your current strategy may behave under different market scenarios and help you decide whether a more customized approach makes sense. It's your money. It's your decision. Start the MarketGuard conversation with Jabez Financial by giving us a call at 860-288-9977. So, Brad, I want to thank you again for taking the time to join us here on the Manumit Radio Show to share your insights and what you have to bring to the table and how you've partnered with Jabez Financial with MarketGuard. And I really appreciate all that you had to share with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Glenn, for the opportunity to be on the show. And most importantly, thank you for the partnership. We love being able to work with individuals like yourself and Jabez Financial to help people achieve the goals that they desire with their life savings. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Manumit Podcast. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts so that you never miss an episode. And we will see you next time. Take care.
Investment advisory services offered through Jabez Financial, LLC, a registered investment advisor firm. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities, offered through Glenn Johnson Connecticut Insurance, license number 4628409. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Jabez Financial, LLC. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Jabez Financial, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Jabez Financial, LLC is licensed in your state, please call 860-390-0093.